I recently found out there's something called expando object in C#, and I thought that was hilarious that they called it expando. So I started off with a demonstration on how to dynamically dereference a JSON file. Deserialize, of course, not dereference. Deserialize is taking the JSON info and making a class out of it. Dereferencing is finding out what memory address is being pointed to. I have no idea why I said dereference. Sorry about that. I had ChatGPT make me this JSON file. I was going to convert it to a class using expando. But before I was going to do that, I was going to demonstrate how a normal sane person would dereference a JSON file into a class. So as I went along that path, and I added a new, simple class that would allow me to populate it with this JSON data, DTO, data transfer object, something jumped out at me. So you can type, if you're making properties in your class, you can type prop and then hit the tab key twice, and it does that for you, which is cool. So we can see that this has an fname field, so I want to make an fname. Capitalize it because it's a property. And if you're using .NET 8, you get this weird error that says a non-nullable property must contain a non-nullable value. And you ask yourself, a string can be nullable. Why is it giving me this warning? It makes no sense. And how does that affect my life, So I jumped over to our programs, yes, and I started making something from scratch. So let's comment that out for now. If I make a dog class, and once again I make this property prop tab, it's a string, and it's called fname because my dog has a first name. I get this warning that a non-nullable property must contain a non-null value. Once again, I have this internal conversation. Strings are nullable. I don't know why it's telling me this. Let's see what difference it makes. So I'm going to output. So you can say CW for console write line, hit the tab, and say my dog's name is, let's create a dog class. Dog equals new dog. Very good. My dog's name is dog dot fname. All right. So we're getting this warning. And when we build it, it shows us this warning. But it's still compiled, right? And if we run it, we would expect to see that my dog's name is blank because it's null. My dog's name is blank. So what's going on? Why is it giving us this warning? Well, the warning isn't that strings are nullable or not nullable. What it's saying is, because this is a non-nullable string, you're promising the compiler that there's going to be a value, and you didn't provide the value. Now, how do you make it nullable? Well, a quick review. Ints are numbers, right? They can't be null unless you use the special, let's try a different one. Unless you use the special notation question mark, which makes it nullable. Except you don't put the question mark there, you put it here, of course. Don't be silly. So question mark makes even integers, it makes it possible to assign a null value. So it may seem odd to take a string, which you know can have a null value, and say it can have a null value. And if you're like me, you just do this to make that warning go away, and you're not sure why, but you just do it because nobody likes warnings sitting around. But what have you really done? Let's step back a second. We got this warning. We know this runs because names can be null, but a string also has a length. And if you try to get the length of a null value, you have a problem. And you can see that we can build this. It's clearly going to have a problem because it's telling us there is no value, but it still compiles. Oh, it's giving us some more warnings because of this nonsense. It still compiles. In fact, it'll even let us run until it blows up because there's no length of a null object. Now here's the good part. This is what I've been building up to. When you add this question mark to the string, because remember, right now you're saying compiler. This is a non-nullable field, a non-nullable property. I promise it has a value. And it's like, it doesn't, so fine, but you're not fulfilling your obligation. When you say it is nullable, it says, okay, I understand that it could have a value or it won't have a value. And when the compiler understands that, look what happened. It moves the warning up here. It says, hey, you said this could be nullable, maybe. And maybe that's going to give you a problem. And that is the reason why we're going through all this. That's the reason why they have these non-nullable fields. Not because a string itself is nullable or not nullable, but because the property, you're telling the compiler, this property has a value. I promise it has a value. Or when you add the question mark, you're saying it could be null. Look for other problems. Cool, right? All right. I'll make another video later. Hope to see you then.